Burnout seems to be on the rise these days, and we have the top 6 reasons as to why you may be. Have you ever noticed that if you're taking a look at some of these self-help or your just different topics out there, they're just always like pretentious British guys or talk-to-text voices. We could try that one in the next one, but yeah, I got this article pulled up here for burnout. Okay, it's something that's happened to the best of us. Okay, you might really like your job, but maybe you're overextending yourself. Maybe you're not getting proper amount of sleep or proper amount of nutrition in order to keep up with your increased workload, and you might just be experiencing something that you're not really used to. You're starting to hate the thing you do on a daily basis, and you feel like there's really no outs. Well, if you can't quite pinpoint why you're feeling this way, I've got 6 answers for you. Let's see if it's going to help any. Job burnout is on the rise, according to several surveys. People are feeling emotionally exhausted, detached from their work and colleagues, and less productive and efficacious. Something like that. Should be. This makes them more likely to suffer health consequences, need sick days, and quit their jobs. Not too surprisingly, burnout has become even more prevalent during the pandemic, particularly among healthcare professionals, causing widespread concern. Or if you work with somebody who's really bad at their job and you need to constantly look after them. I'm not speaking from personal experience or anything. I'm just saying that tends to happen, okay? If you want to address burnout, according to Jennifer Moss, who authored The Burnout Epidemic, The Rise of Chronic Stress and How We Can Fix It, employers need to stop blaming employees for not being resilient enough and instead change the policies and workplace. Ugh, I hate all of that. Okay, don't blame anybody else. Work on yourself, and that's the most effective way to stop burnout from occurring so frequently. Okay, I know you don't necessarily have all of the answers if you're feeling overwhelmed and you're feeling locked in, but you also got to understand that you're totally in control of what is going on around you. If you stand up for yourself, if you create the boundaries needed in order to just say no and mean it, you'll either find a way to pull out of the burnout skid or completely avoid it from ever happening again, okay? So let's see what organizations shouldn't do. We'll eventually get to the 6 points. It's just the other heading that they have here. Understanding the causes of burnout can help organizations better match their policies to the needs of their workforce. You shouldn't be curtailing to the whims and the needs, or rather the no needs are really here, but the whims and the fancy of a few slackers that you might have in the corporation. Tends to happen. But too often employers try to offer simple solutions without changing anything substantial. Yeah, they shouldn't be mandating anything. It shouldn't be, we got this big shipment and you guys are going to be here to offload the truck until it's offloaded. No ifs, ands, or buts. If you work for a company like that, I would suggest start now by refining your resume and looking other locations. But those instances, while they do happen, and I can attest to some of that situation happening as well, but if it's not something that you signed up for, if it was not something that you're comfortable with doing, other opportunity is out there, especially right now, as every business that is still open that survived the past 20 months is looking for help. And it's a buyer's market right now in the industry. That's for certain. If you want to address the burnout problem, the first step is repeating and internalizing this mantra. Burnout is about your organization, not your people. That's true. Yoga, vacation time, wellness tech, and meditation apps can help people feel optimized, healthier. But when it comes to preventing burnout, suggesting that these tools are cures is dangerous. I agree. They can help, okay? They can alleviate some pain, but that's like taking aspirin for cancer. It's going to help, but it doesn't address anything. It's, the proverbial piece of newspaper over the dog mess. Her book argues we can better address burnout if we only recognize the signs, understand the causes, and take steps to combat it at its roots. Only by doing so will we really make work healthy, productive, and enjoyable as it was meant to be. So what organizations shouldn't do, okay? For example, giving employees on-site perks such as free meals and workout rooms can backfire, okay, says Moss. Interesting, okay. I'm with you with the free meals and the workout rooms. It could be too... Let's just see, though, okay, because I got another idea as well. As people stay too long at work, missing out on the benefits of friends and family, and then just having that exercise and work association, just having that intermingle, not a good recipe, okay? Offering unlimited vacation time means nothing if people feel like they can't take it, or worse, return to a huge backlog of work after they do it. Yeah, that's why you need to plan accordingly, and you shouldn't be taking weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks off because you're working for somebody after all, okay? If you don't want to be working all the time, work part-time or find passive streams of income so you can gallivant across the world. It's not a bad way to live your life. It's just don't try to want it all, okay? Because you're going to come up short in reality. Enforced team building or holiday meant to build social bonds. That sounds like just the most annoying thing imaginable. I've had one of those things happen, okay? The first year that I went to college, I always forget what year it was, but I think it was 2010 or 2011. We had this stupid retreat to meet up with all the first year and second year students, and we spent a year out at the ski lodge, okay? It was the off season. It was whatever it was early September. We went out there for a day for a team building exercise. I remember going, I remember hating it. I don't remember anything that we did, and I know that I skipped out on it in the next year. It did nothing. I don't remember anybody who was there, and I made my friends after we were in classes together after that waste of everyone's time and effort. Some employers' attempts at preventing burnout fail because they're band-aids to a larger problem. Exactly the reasons that we described a little bit earlier. Let's get to the causes, shall we? So, workload, okay? Overwork is the main cause of burnout. Like I was saying, if you're not properly attuned, capable, or ready to take on extra responsibility, you're going to burn out. Eventually. You might think that you have broad shoulders, but some people are going to take advantage of that and continue to pile stuff on your plate until you tell them that's enough, okay? And then you might have to tell them again, but you don't speak up a third time. That third time involves them getting the old Joe Biden salute of you just walking out with your back facing to them. Working too many hours is responsible for the deaths of millions of people every year. They literally don't work themselves to death, at least in North America. I can't speak about China or Japan or anything like that, but likely because overwork makes people suffer weight loss, body pain, exhaustion, high levels of cortisol, sleep loss, and more. Yeah. And so does just going home and not doing anything with your spare time. But okay. Yet telling people to just say no to working more is bound to backfire. Yeah, if you don't mean it, says Moss. I'm already at odds with this lady. People recognize that working less is interpreted as not showing initiative or not stepping up and may be punished formally or informally. Yeah, just don't care what those superficial morons think. And if they do start to care, if they tell you that, oh, there is a choice, but then in actuality, there really isn't a choice, it's a buyer's market. Okay, I need not repeat myself. Perceived lack of control. Yeah, there are two sets of circumstances in life, okay? There's the things that you control, which you dedicate 100% of your attention to, and then there's the things that you can't control, which you devote 0% of your attention to. The only thing you can do with those things that are out of your control is control how you respond to the things that are out of control, okay? It sounds simple, but that's really what it is. Study shows that autonomy at work is important for well-being, and being micromanaged is particularly demotivating to employees. Unless, of course, there's rare instances where you'd have a manager and somebody goes and gives them 100% of their attention and tells them exactly what to do, removing the autonomy from the person who really just couldn't care less and just wants everything streamlined for them. In certain instances, people will play into this, but I get the generalized characterization of this. Yet many employers fall back on watching their employees' every move, controlling their work schedule, or punishing them for missteps. And you don't work for them for very long. Instead, it's important to help employees feel a sense of autonomy by backing off and acting more as a coach. Moss says that's for true. Sure, it helps if you hire people with the right skills in the first place. Yep, there's an old axiom. I don't know if we've talked about this before, but when it comes to companies, it's not who you hire that ends up screwing up your company. It's who you do not fire, okay? Because somebody might be a great interview, but as soon as they get into the job, you're going to stumble the first couple of days and before you get your bearings. So, okay, obviously you can bear with those individuals, but if a couple months in, they're still absolute crap, well, if you don't get rid of them by the end of their probationary term, or even if they start to just compile just less than acceptable work, you got to get rid of them because the cost of keeping them outweighs the cost of replacing them. It sucks to suck. And that person's performance, this is an entirely different topic, but we can touch on it, okay? And I'd love to talk about it again in the future. But there's scientific evidence to prove that putting a poor performing employee into a group of people who are average to high performers, it doesn't make the poor performer better by association. It drags everybody else down. So that tactic that's been used by teachers and bad middle managers forever actually doesn't work, okay? And you've probably seen it in practice. Just think back to certain projects in school, okay? Or if you've worked a bad retail job or a bad food service job, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Sure, it helps, right, if you hire the right people with the proper skill sets, but you can also increase autonomy by inviting employees to ask questions and express their needs. Ask them to ask specific questions about specific needs, okay? Don't just give a blanket general statement. Another thing, okay? Because I know we're going off on another tangent here, but it is important. At the end of a talk or a lecture, a speech, or any general set of questions, if somebody asks you at the end of it, okay, cool, you got all that? Any questions? More often than not, the person asking that is just anticipating they're just going to go, no, that's fine. But if you just follow it up with, oh, okay, cool, I'm glad we had this conversation. Is there anything specifically you would like clarification on in regards to reiterate something that you've noticed if you were paying attention to when you were giving the lecture, the talk, or the speech? If you noticed they were just a little bit uncomfortable about it, if you were asking them if they needed clarification on that specific topic, then you're more likely to get your point across properly. Okay, so there's a little, insight. Okay, you just need to watch some body language. You just need to be careful of your surroundings. Just be a little bit more insightful of things and perceptive of your surroundings. The lack of reward or recognition. Yep, if you feel like you're spinning your wheels, obviously you're going to get burnt out. I'm not progressing. Nobody cares what I'm doing. I'm just getting overworked. That's the general feeling of things. Can't say I've ever felt that before. No. That obviously wasn't a very easy to access example. No, none whatsoever. Paying someone for what they're worth is an important way to reward them for their work, but so is communicating to people that their efforts matter. When we don't acknowledge each other, both as peers and leaders, we lose our sense of value to the greater organizational mission, and we stop feeling good about ourselves. And some people just don't care that much, okay? And some people you can just say, good job, okay? Give them a little bit more responsibility every once in a while. And then you have the narcissists who need every single thing that they do constantly, overwhelmingly praised. And you want to get rid of those people as soon as possible. But some people need a whole bunch of encouragement. Not even encouragement, just because encouragement is a good thing. That stimulates growth in people, and that's totally fine, and that's a laudable process, and that's the proper road to go down. But a lot of people need a lot of coddling. They need constant reminders. They're taxing people to be around. But if you see somebody at work do something good, okay, tell them that they're doing a good job. If you guys are working together doing something, thank them for their help afterwards, even if they weren't that much of a help. Okay, that's just going to make them feel good. People like compliments, okay? It's not just about swore. It's not a difficult concept to grasp. Boss cautions employers not to implement recognition programs that elevate one part of the team over another. Unless you know the personality of the people that are in each side of the group, okay? If there's two teams working at a goal, I'd imagine this is probably one of these boring office job types that she's referencing here. These instill jealousy or anger in, lesser minds, obviously. She suggests gratitude from top leadership and peer-to-peer gratitude, and not just meeting work goals, but showing empathy and care. Poor relationships. Having a sense of belonging is necessary for mental health and well-being. Thanks, tips. This is true at work as much as it is in life. When people feel part of a community, they're more likely to thrive. Next. Lack of fairness. That's fair. That's true. Unfair treatment includes bias, favoritism, mistreatment by a coworker or a supervisor, and unfair compensation and or corporate policies. Yeah, but you should always look at the same time, and maybe, you know what, if you think that you're not being treated fairly, maybe just reassess the quality of your work. Maybe you're not as good as you think you are. Okay, you'd always be self-aware of what you're putting out there, and yeah, if you're a standout employee and then all of a sudden the boss brings in his kid and he gives them equal footing in the office from word go, starts giving them all the favorable treatment, that's probably a problem. But more often than not, you're not as good as you think you are. Hate to tell you. She suggests that organizations need to have complaint mechanisms in place. Oh, for weaklings. Okay, respond to every grievance. Not really. And act promptly to resolve issues. That's true. Otherwise, resentment is bound to fester and grow. Yeah, but some people are just naturally predisposed to negative emotions and they thrive on them, okay? You know those types of people. They're in the replies of different Twitter sections. Don't worry about it. They're very easy to find, and they just want to bring everybody down. Values mismatch. Good case. Yeah, you just might be in the wrong job, okay? Hiring someone whose values and goals do not align with the values and the goals of the organization's culture, may result in lower job satisfaction and negatively impact mental health, writes Moss. I'm starting to like her less and less. And it's likely that someone who doesn't share in the organization's mission will be unhappy and unproductive too. Or if you work for a place that has a value and a mission and a culture, you just feel like you want to cave somebody's head in. Values mismatches, may be avoided through the hiring process. Yep. Thorough interviews. Ask pertinent questions, okay? That goes 2 for you if you're showing up at an interview, okay? You need to come equipped with at least 3 questions, okay? And those are questions you can build up along the course of the interview, because that shows that you're engaged as well. And that you should also be wondering, okay, it's like, oh man, this is a really good job and I finally got the interview, but then you get in there and then the setting is just off and you know that it isn't going to fit you long term. You need to ask the questions in order to poke the holes to properly know if the place is going to be the right place for you. And if you see any red flags pop up, you need to address them when they do. Okay, because that reflects well on you as the interviewee, and then that also reflects the motivation of yourself, and it helps with your self-improvement, okay? So yeah, we're just going to skip ahead a little bit. Overall, changing organizational cultures to be more purpose-driven, kinder. No. Focus on yourself, okay? Focus on what you can do better, and go to somebody in authority if it is something that is in fact out of your control, okay? If something unfair, unjust is happening to you, you need to bring it up to somebody who can make a difference. And if they're not going to, guess what? They probably have a boss. And if their boss doesn't want to do anything about it, start planning for an out. Then you have something to look forward to in the future. That's how you can get by and get through the effects of burnout. It happens to the best of us, even if it's in a job that you desperately love. Things that you think are outside of your control might actually be fixable because they are in fact in your control at some level. With that said, I thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.